Good afternoon slash evening. Well, it's probably not afternoon for anybody. Good evening, Pure Officiating Universe. Welcome to you from downtown San Francisco, California. It is overcast, windy, and drizzly rain. It's an ugly day today, but it has been beautiful weather for the most part. Also joining us from, let's go from west to east. Is Phoenix west? Yes, it has to be.
It has to be.
Joining us from Phoenix, Arizona today, Brandon Cruz. He likes to go, he likes to show up like all over the place. We never know where he is half the time.
Where in the world?
Yeah, it's Brandon Cruz. And then we're going to go kind of northern from there, but still heading in the easterly direction from Westminster, Colorado, Mr. Corey Luxner.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
And then from Kingwood, Texas, he probably tells everybody, "Oh, I'm from Houston." No, you're not. You're from Kingwood. Nobody knows where that is. Everybody knows where Houston is. From Kingwood, Texas, our brother, Mr. Daniel Young. We have an interesting mishmash. I don't even know what word to use there. Mix mash or mismatch of plays.
I think it's Mish with an SH there.
That's what I thought, but then it sounded stupid when I was saying it. Mishmash.
I know, it does sound stupid.
Because analyzing it doesn't sound stupid at all.
It's good content.
We have an interesting mix of plays for you all
Hey,
today.
Tuta, it doesn't matter if he's in Lake Wanatonka, South Dakota, or Phoenix. It's the same guy, man.
Same dude, exactly. I wonder why we brought him on in our realm here, but well, whatever. So before we get started, can I just get on a tiny soapbox? I know I like to get on soapboxes. So we've had multiple conversations with different people about grades, and I want to encourage our members. A lot of times when we start talking about grades and thinking about grades and harping on grades, we really put ourselves in a very negative mental state, and it's really not productive or beneficial to our officiating development. So what I would love to do is challenge everyone and request everyone and ask that everyone who's working right now, who does get grades, this is what I want you to do for your very next game. Every flag that you throw, go find it on your film and pretend like you are the actual grader / evaluator and write down exactly what you see on the film. And if you want to assign a grade to it, fine, do it. If you don't do it. Then find a buddy that you trust, a buddy that is going to be honest with you, and a buddy who knows what they're talking about as well. Have them do the same thing on your flags. And maybe if you have a couple other plays where you think you may have missed something, do the exact same thing. Actually write up the evaluation yourself. Share it with your buddy, and then do all of that prior to getting your grades. And I think you'll be in a much better mental state to accept whatever comment that the quote unquote grader gives you and whatever grade that you get. And you'll start realizing, you know what? I'm benefiting myself by doing this actual evaluation of myself prior to getting the grade from the graders. And I'm sorry I got off on a little tangent. Mr. Brandon Cruz, let's go.
Your message rings true to all of us. And it's not easy, right?
It's not.
An easy thing to do. Because
we have people at the highest levels of football who harp on grade system, and Daniel was sharing a conversation he had with someone, and it was disturbing to me that that at the highest level of football officiating, that we can really go into a deep mental funk over grades.
Yeah, we tend to really attach who we are as an official to one singular grade for some reason.
Yes.
Think about how silly that is. But it's easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
All right. Wonder if we've talked about gaining possession of a loose ball on this platform at all. Well, here we go again.
Hey, wait, Brandon, before we go into that, we needed to talk about something. A couple weeks ago, we talked about, in fact, we talked about possession, right?
Yeah.
A runner who fumbled the ball, but the ball never hit the ground. And we talked about the possession process. And then Dean Blandino put out a statement. So for clarification, so if anyone has not read the statement that Dean Blandino put out, basically what it says is a runner that loses possession and grabs the ball again, I'll say it like that, prior to the ball hitting the ground, does not have to complete the full process of gaining possession.
Unless he's airborne.
Unless he's airborne, correct.
Yep. So the play we showed was a non-airborne player who fumbled. He recontrolled the ball. What we're saying is that satisfies possession so long as he was not airborne. If he lost the ball, if he was already a runner, got airborne, lost possession of the football, then he's got to go through all the three, elements of regaining possession.
Correct. We needed to make sure that we talked about that interpretation that came out actually the Friday after we had that whole discussion. Yeah. Which also leads us to also add, as we've
thank goodness.
Yes. If you need to find some direction and there's conflict in what we say and what your supervisor says, do what your supervisor says. If there's conflict between what we say and the National Secretary, Steve Shaw says, do what Steve Shaw says. If there's any conflict between what we say and what Dean Blandino says, do what Dean Blandino says. So just think about that. All right. Sorry, Brandon.
You're good. But the thing is, we can always help navigate between what appear to be absolutes that really are never absolutes.
That's correct.
You see what I'm saying? So
that's correct. Nothing is absolute.
Nothing's absolute. We help each other navigate those things too all the time. Can we move on to some plays? Let's do it. All right. Punt play. Gaining possession of a punt. So look at the poll. It's published. And there's 3 statements in the poll. There's 3. I know it looks like a lot, but there's only 3. And all of those statements are 100% true. You can't even argue that they're 100% true. They actually are. But there's only one that applies to what we need to use to arrive at the proper result of the play. All right, so the play is going to loop and look at the 3 statements. So the entire football is in the field of play when firm control is achieved with a body part touching the ground in bounds. Is that the one we should use? The gunner's right foot is on the goal line when he first touches the kick. That's true. Is that the one we should use? The process of gaining possession is completed after the ball is breaking the plane of the goal line, which is also true. Is that the one we should use?
So, Brandon, you're saying 2 of these statements are irrelevant in terms of us determining how to come up with the result of this play.
That's
Is
right.
that what you're saying? Gotcha.
Yep. Our judgment's going to be formed based on one of these true statements. All 3
this is an interesting poll question.
Yeah,
I love this.
All 3 of them are true. The poll writer was on fire with this one. Wow.
We all get lucky sometimes.
Still a few coming in.
My man has his hat off, by the way. So that I would immediately wonder, man, why is your hat off? If I was a referee, and then of course he probably won't say anything to the referee.
You sound jaded already, man.
I'm just saying.
Like 3 weeks.
Hey, Brandon, are you still with us, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just ended the poll. Daniel, what are you seeing for the results?
I'm seeing 62% of us believe that we need to know that the entire football is in the field of play when firm control is achieved with a body part touching the ground in bounds is the statement that will help us arrive at the appropriate result. 6% of us said it's the gunner's right foot on the goal line. And then 31% of us said that it's the process of gaining possession is completed after the ball breaks the plane of the goal line.
All right. So if you're working this play and the field judge, which wasn't the case here, but the field judge maybe has one of those looks in his eyes, what information are you going to go over and help him with?
Well, so I think as a back judge, let me just say this first. With those punts on the goal line, we have deep wings there, and we want to use them to support us. But we also want to make sure that we take ownership of this play. Ultimately, we are the ones responsible for the ball and what happens to it on the punt play. So, hopefully I don't need to interact a whole lot with the field judge. I can make the appropriate ruling. So if I see him make the inappropriate ruling, right, he's ruling something that I just don't agree with, then what I'm going to go over to him and talk about is, where did the kicking team player, Team A, gain firm control of the ball?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because that's the only rule that matters for a punt and the goal line, Daniel?
I don't really like to deal in absolutes.
That's true.
Is this a touchback or is this dead on the 1 yard line? And by the way, let's not put this with the arms stretched out. We always want to start a punt on a tick mark if we can. I don't know if you guys referees agree with me, but I think we're better off here going at the 1 than the half. But yes, what I need to know is, where was firm control established, and where was the ball in relation to the goal line when firm control was established? That's what I want to talk to the field judge about.
Is that because once the kicking team gains possession of a kick, the play is over? The ball becomes dead by rule?
Yeah, if it hasn't, yes, correct. That is correct.
Okay, so perfect. So let's just use really good terminology here. So we want to know where firm control of the kick happens when he has a body part on the ground, right? That's really what we want to know. Okay. Yeah. And then so there's going to be a process. We're going to have a process of finishing, the possession process, right? That's going to be a process. There's going to be time after that. In this case, what is it? It's really, we know he's gained possession of the kick when he can kind of flip that ball up. That proves without a shadow of a doubt that he's gained possession. And really, I think the process of gaining possession is over a little before that. Mm-hmm. But even if this guy is going to the ground, he could actually finish gaining. He could finish the process of gaining possession at the yellow letters of the end zone. And if he somehow had you go with me here. If he had
so I think a good visual for us, given that statement, is let's put number 3, running towards the goal line, and he doesn't turn around. He's sprinting. He's got a foot down at the 1, bam, firm control. That foot's up, and he goes down on the 1. That's in the blink of an eye. Yeah. When was possession established? Well, I don't know, but here's what I know. I know that he had a foot down at the 1, and he had that ball locked in, and it hadn't gotten to the goal line yet. So same thing we're talking about. I don't know if that visualization helps anybody kind of think about what you were describing, where he's still going into the end zone, but we're able to get firm control body part down prior, maybe we're not sure. Maybe we're not sure about possession. I don't know if he possessed it. He was running really, really fast. Well, the good news for you is you don't have to know.
That's right. I mean, if he sticks it in his control, gets a body part inbounds anywhere, because it doesn't matter that his foot is touching the goal line, right? That was a little trick in the poll. It doesn't matter. In college football, it's purely the position of the ball. So we get a foot down, we gain firm control. If the ball is completely outside of the end or in the field of play, none of it's breaking the goal line in college football, then so long as he completes the process of gaining possession, which we can see he's able to perform an outcome of the game, then we index the spot and establish that spot by where he gained control with the body part on the ground.
So let's just make sure we revisit that. I think we just maybe assumed that, or maybe you guys said it and I blacked out for a second, but the goal line is a plane from just like scoring a touchdown. So if the nose of the ball, and it's irrespective of where the kicking team or return team player is, if the nose of the ball breaks the plane of the goal line, now we have a touchback hanging, depending on, we know that A can bat the ball back into the field of play and we would have an illegal touch in the end zone. But that's what we're looking for, the ball breaking the plane of the goal line.
While it's still loose.
Correct. Well, it's still a kick, I guess.
while it's still a kick. Beautiful. Okay, so just poll results, 62%. We're absolutely spot on. 31%, we get it. Like this process of gaining possession is complex to all of us. But we just want to understand possessions. The spot of possession is established with the first two elements, control, body part. And then we just got to complete that time element, and then we basically, the ball is dead where the control and body part happen. So anything
I like
else?
that comment, Brandon, possession is established at that spot. Yeah.
Really not gained.
Well, let's throw a curveball in there then. Let's say 17.
Yep.
You see how he threw the ball backwards?
Yes.
Let's say an R player happened to be right there and he caught that ball after 17, threw it backwards and started running with it. Then what? Whistle,
same result. Same result.
So it's dead. It's dead.
It's dead.
It's dead. Yeah.
Yep.
So one thing we could talk about also for me, when we were talking about Daniel and what would he talk to the field judge about? To me, I like to look at there's different types of communication that we have. We have verbal communication and we have nonverbal communication. And what we can see on this play is that the field judge is clearly stepping to the 1 yard line. He's not staying in the end zone or stepping back into the end zone or stepping into the end zone from out of bounds. He's stepping to the 1 yard line. So he's clearly communicating to us that he does not have this as a touchback. So if I'm a back judge and I'm standing there looking at him and I do have it as a touchback, then I need to bust my butt over there and we have a conversation. But otherwise, if he has it at the 1, I probably have it at the 1 as well as a back judge. So now we don't even have to have a conversation because I looked at his nonverbal communication and picked up what he's doing.
Awesome. Did you want to address the hat off, or we kind of have another out of bounds play coming up?
We can, but I mean, his hat is off. So I know what he's saying is somebody from the kicking team was out of bounds. We don't know if he was forced out or,
check out the play early.
Yeah, and look at number 17.
Yeah, it's the same guy who downs this kick. Double team block. So he made a judgment, obviously. Well, let's not ruin the next play, but he made a judgment that he was forced out.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I don't know if Corey or Tuta want to speak to just from the field judge positioning. It looks like we get pushed back just a touch into the end zone. Clearly not in a position where we can't make the appropriate ruling, but any thoughts relative to that?
Yeah, that's something I picked up on watching this. And, where this field judge is starting is exactly where we want to start, kind of behind that pylon into the end zone. But as soon as I realized that pylon isn't going to be threatened with an airborne kick, I try to make that rotation to be looking down the goal line for exactly this type of play. I mean, you guys have covered all the other aspects of this. The term I like to see is that ball getting frozen for the possession aspect of it. But I would have liked to, if I was working this play, I'd like to rotate over to be looking down that goal line.
What I think it is, processing this player out of bounds, coming back in, the feet never lie. So it shows that there's just a little bit more processing going on.
Right.
And I think we still were in position to make this judgment, but maybe not perfect position.
No, 100%. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. I mean, you can still rule from where you're at. I mean, if we're talking about looking for that perfect mechanic, I think that would be it, but you can still rule from there. There's no question about that.
Sure.
Good question. Good discussion.
Hey, you know what's funny? I'm sorry, Brandon. I know you keep trying to move on. This is funny, and I just picked it up just watching this. We always talk about football, especially when we're talking about catch, no catch at boundary line. Yeah. We always talk about you got to watch the feet. You got to watch the feet. Well, in this play, you don't need to watch the feet because the feet are totally irrelevant. You have to watch the ball.
You just have to know you got to index that the foot's on the ground or another body part. I mean, it doesn't have to be the foot, but obviously in this play, it's going to be the foot.
Yeah,
that is important to making that judgment. Wow. Because if he controls the ball airborne and then lands in the end zone, what do you got?
Oh, well, yeah. Well, that's going to be a touchback. Yeah. Yeah. But I think we know if a player's airborne or on the ground. Just we don't even have to look at his feet to know that.
Okay.
Hopefully.
I'll go with you on that. All right, another punt play. Let's go punt plays here. First couple plays and then we'll get another poll up. This is going to be interesting as well. So now we're looking at the punt returner, touches this ball, he muffs the football. And then we've got a whole bunch of action over here by the sideline. So the ruling on the field is that, again, we had that muff kick, and the ruling on the field is that the kicking team player reestablished inbounds prior to touching the ball. Okay, so you see the punt returner, unsuccessful attempt to gain possession, right? And then this kicking team player, the kicking team is the team in the white jerseys. All right, so he feels like he's out of the play, and then he comes back in it. He recovers the ball. So now, look, where should the penalty for illegally returning from out of bounds, our acronym for that foul is ROB, where should that penalty be enforced from? And you've got really 4 options: either the end of the kick, the spot of the foul, the previous spot, or you might say, what are you talking about? There's no foul. The receiving team touched the ball first. So quit trying to trick us. And then you can see how tight this is to this kicking team player reestablishing, but he does. He gets that when that foot comes up from out of bounds. Look at that toe is touching in bounds before he touches the ball. So that meets the very minimal criteria for us to have a player reestablished in bounds. Boom, right there. All right, so we're assuming we make this call. We got the ruling on the field. First touch by the receiving team. All right, then the kicking team player reestablishes inbounds and recovers this loose ball. So now we've got a flag down, maybe. You might, although nobody has said this yet. We have a flag down for illegally returning from out of bounds. And where are we going to penalize that?
Hey, Daniel, you that back judge is really aggressive. I like that. He jumped all in there and he got right in the mix.
Side judge killed the clock like 85 times.
Yeah.
9.5, Corey.
9.5.
9.5 times.
9.5.
So we're gonna cover pileups next. So
yeah.
we'll talk about that here in a second.
I'm a sissy when it comes to pileups. I'll be honest. I'm not throwing my face in there. I'm sorry.
I already knew that.
Do we have a fair catch signal by the returner?
Did it matter?
It could.
Okay.
I think all these replays kind of cut out that.
23 hops from out of bounds. It is really difficult if live to tell if he reestablished or not, because he just,
I know,
both feet come up almost simultaneously. That's really funny.
It's almost like he knew exactly what he was doing somehow, though. But I think he just going after the ball, All right. End the poll. 70%. If we had this flag down, enforce it from the previous spot. 15% end of the kick, 10% spot of the foul. And then 5% say there was no foul because it was first touched by the receiving team. So
you bought those, Brandon. You bought those 5% of those votes.
I did. I was campaigning. So what do we know? Again, I think not only on the last play with the rules that are different from pro to college, because I don't know about I grew up watching pro football. I didn't even know college football really mattered until I found it, and then it became way better than pro football. But pro rules can skew us. So in the pros, in the first play, that's a different rule. In this play, it's a different rule. But what do we want to say about the receiving team touching the ball first? Does that matter to our rule relative to kicking team players returning from out of bounds on a kick play during a kick play?
No.
It's during the down.
Yeah, so it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter who touches the ball. If they go out during the kick play, they can't return during the kick play. Okay, so we can eliminate that. If the 5% who selected that, hear us out. The touching of the kick does not, basically take the kicking team player off of committing this foul. So now we have to. Okay, so we got the flag down, and we know it's a properly called flag. So how are we going to enforce it? Why is it properly called? Because we have him reestablish in bounds. If we don't have him reestablish in bounds, what do we simply have? We have a dead
kick
ball.
Out of bounds.
Kick the ball, the loose ball's out of bounds, touched by a player who's out of bounds, and we're just going to give it to the receiving team at whatever we judge that spot to be. Okay, but we're not. We know that we have him reestablished. And so since the receiving team player touched the kick, really this is the kicking team being in legal possession of this ball at the end of the down. And so what is, help me out, guys, what does the rule say if we can award the ball to team B with tacking on a penalty? We call it tack on. We'll explain what that means. What are the criteria for enforcing that from the end of the kick and team B keeping the ball?
Well, team B has to be the team next to put the ball in play.
Yeah.
And in this situation, they're not, because as you just explained to us, team A is in legal possession of the ball at the end of this down.
That's right. So it's where the ball belongs to team B is the wording in the rule. I should have put the rule reference. I figured Tutai would take care of all that. Where the ball belongs to team B. Okay, and so this ball doesn't belong to team B. So we don't have the rule available to us to enforce this from from where that ball belongs to team B and then award the ball to team B. That's just not available to us. So therefore, what is this? It's a foul during a loose ball. Mm-hmm. Basic spot for fouls during loose ball is
previous spot.
And that's all really that we have to enforce this from. All right. So on that specific rule, we have a question about it being reviewable. So how would if the coach asked to challenge this, how would we want to respond to that?
Well, first I would ask him, what is he challenging?
Yeah.
Because that's important to understand exactly what he's challenging.
So certainly some reviewable aspects.
All right. So, hey, I want to challenge. Okay, let's say we ruled it. I don't even know what we ruled, because it depends like what's revealed based on what we ruled. Let's say we ruled the kicking team recovers this ball without ever stepping out of bounds. So then obviously we're awarding first down to the kicking team at this spot of recovery for what we kind of just talked about. So now, is it reviewable that he stepped out of bounds?
Yes.
Yes. Touching of a kick.
Touching it. Well,
no, player out of bounds. Yeah, that's
player out of bounds. So it used to not be, right? It used to not be. This has been a recent change, maybe even this year. They all kind of run together, but I think this is a recent change this year of this player being out of bounds, returning from out of bounds. Remember now, it's not just the fact that he's out of, obviously if you return from out of bounds, you had to have been out of bounds. But yeah, him stepping out of bounds is reviewable so long as it's during the kick play. And the kick play, look at your definitions, is defined from the snap to the end of the kick. So if he goes out of bounds during the return, that's not a kick play. It's still during the down, but it's not a kick play. So it's reviewable. It's certainly reviewable, and it's a foul if he goes out of bounds and returns during the kick play, which this is. The ball was still loose. He was really the one that ended the kick by recovering it. So yes, that's reviewable. I think, Tyler, that answers your question. But if you were thinking about it from a different way, because we could put a lot of scenarios together on this, what's reviewable, what's not. If we rule him to have stepped out of bounds and then he actually didn't, yeah, that's reviewable too. So
we're saying let's just take out the recent rule change relative to a player during a kick play returning back in bounds. And this is a loose ball, and he steps out like this right now, and he's first to touch the ball. Can't we review that irrespective of that change because of its impact on the touching of the kick or the touching of a loose ball, recovering a loose ball? Because, again, even without that change, we know we've made this point that if he's out of bounds and it's not a foul for whatever reason, maybe I'm making this more confusing, that when he touches the ball it's a dead ball, and if we miss that and award possession to team A, we could fix that anyway because of him stepping out of bounds and touching the ball and us ruling it dead. Correct?
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, touching of a live ball by an out of bounds player, that's always, or a loose ball by an out of bounds player is always reviewable. And I think that's what you're getting at, right? So I
was trying to just clarify that but I don't think I did. I think I made it more cloudy. So
nope, it's all good. It's all good. If he never reestablished and touched the ball before he reestablished as an inbounds player, that would also become reviewable. And something we always just want to be alert to, loose balls near the sideline. I mean, Corey, like what is the natural inclination here just with your eyes to go towards when we got this kind of play? What do you
ball 100%.
The ball, it's always the ball. I mean, the same thing as Tuta and I were talking about pass fumble at the quarterback. Man, we made a great judgment on fumble, or we think we did. And guess what? Then the quarterback's knee gets shattered by another player. So we got to just be alert to watching player actions and not just so much focused on the loose ball all the time.
It's funny you say that because last week I was doing a lot of self-talk of, if you have an interception, this is way off topic, but as a deep wing, you have an interception, you immediately want to go to that return instead of staying to see if that receiver gets, just ear hold. And so it's the same type of thing. I mean, when something changes like this on a play so quickly and drastically, we have a habit of going to the ball, and it takes a lot of discipline to stay away from it.
Did we cover this? I want to challenge Brandon. My guy was pushed out of bounds. I want to challenge that. Did we talk about that?
Yeah. So it depends again on the ruling on the field. So I guess what would you say? So we've had a ruling on the field, and you're trying to challenge that he was. What would our ruling on the field be?
Let's go with what they ruled on the field, that we've got a foul for returning in bounds with 23. Of course. Okay. And I'm saying. No. That's my ball. That's my ball. He was out of bounds, Brandon.
Is that how you would say that?
That's how coach.
That was way in character.
That's how some coaches.
That's really good. I mean, you get the whole 9 yards here. Appreciate it.
This is the experience.
Okay, so what's not reviewable is the degree of contact. All right, if we ruled, so we had a flag down. If there's what am I trying to say, Daniel? So if we had a flag down for him being out of bounds on his own and then returning,
right?
If there's contact, man, the replay official has to feel very comfortable that contact forced him out. Are you with me?
I proposed it incorrectly. I think it's better if we rule that he's forced out.
Yep.
This is maybe a little more plausible. We say, so maybe in this scenario, team A is saying, team B is saying, Brandon, my guys in the booth, they said it's clear and obvious. He never touched him. How can it be a force out if he doesn't touch? How can it be a force out if he doesn't touch him, Brandon?
They might. I'm getting a little uncomfortable now. I think you're making me flustered. No, but they might say, look, our guy didn't force him out. There was nothing there to force him out. So now what the replay official from this force out concept has to look for in that case is if there's any contact at all, the replay official can't really rule. This is by rule, by the way, on degree of contact. What the replay official is looking for then, is that there's just simply, no contact, right?
Very good. Very good.
So a lot of these judgments.
Yeah, can I belabor this a little bit more?
Yeah,
more from an on-field perspective. Corey and Tuta jump in here, but let's talk about philosophically how we think about force out versus contact putting a player out. Does that make sense if I phrase it that way for you guys to kind of run with it? Because that's a judgment call, right? So what are we looking for? And I know that doesn't necessarily happen here, but I think it's a good time for us to just kind of talk about that. What are we looking for in terms of force out versus contact putting a player out? Is that consideration we make?
It is. Back in the day, we really absolved them with any contact, right? Any touching by the receiving team, we would call that forced out, but I think we've evolved over the past couple of years that we're looking for a good chuck, a good jam off the line of scrimmage that really it's almost a reroute, like a DB would reroute a receiver. And so, maybe it doesn't have to be aggressive, but you definitely have to apply some level of judgment. And, you can't put any type of absolutes or put it into a box, but it's one of those that you definitely want to see more than just a brush of two players. At least that's how I've been doing it. So I don't know how Tuta did it.
So Corey, I agree with you. And I used to say the same thing. A fingernail is going to put him out. I don't care if it's a fingernail. But we can be better than that, and we just have to use a little bit more judgment. And we probably want to see something overt, like you mentioned, a reroute. If there's like, let's say it's just arm fighting, then we need to see the receiving team player actually do some kind of push to put the kicking team player out of bounds. We don't want to just see arm fighting, then, I made a mistake and stepped out, and now I was forced out. We need to definitely use some judgment on that.
Right. And I mean, a lot of it's going to depend on how does that gunner get off the line of scrimmage. Does he go straight towards the sideline? So he's already put himself in peril by taking that route on the kick. Now, if it's something that he's jammed, he's trying to swim out of a jam, I'm going to give him a little bit more leniency there. But if he heads straight for the sideline, it better be a full-fledged push to get him out of bounds.
Yep.
Very good.
Hey, Daniel, I hate to bring us down this rabbit hole.
Yeah, let's do it.
But maybe briefly talk about timing regarding a buzz buy for KCI. Because, normally it's a buzz buy and then it's a catch. Here is a buzz buy and there's a distinct time element before the attempted catch of the ball. How do you judge that from a kick catch interference perspective?
That's a great question. I don't know if we'll bring a great answer, but it's a great question because that is a really difficult consideration. And so a buzz buy that happens with what's a good word for it? A break, an element of time. We'll say that. That's hard to measure, but a significant enough element of time where it's not impactful to the returner's path to the ball is really irrelevant and not what the rules intended to address. However, if we have a buzz buy that requires a kick returner to alter his path to the ball, even if there may be an element of time there, we can deem that KCI, and that really becomes a judgment decision. Now, because we don't want the element of time to be so significant that a returner could manipulate us into our thinking. But I think the broader point of if we have a buzz, even though if we're in that 1 yard, and let's just review this, we've talked about KCI a lot, shoulder to shoulder, 1 yard in front of the returner is protected by rule. If we get inside of that 1 yard, and what Tuta is talking about is he just runs by him without any contact. Then if there's an element of time and we end up, even if we muff it, we be careful, right? Oh, he buzzed him and he muffed it. That's not really a philosophy we have. If it's not impactful to the returner, then it's not a foul, even though he violated that 1 yard buffer. And so the judgment we have to make as back judges is, did he alter the returner's path to the ball or the way he was going to address the ball? Because then, even with a slight element of time, now see here, what we see is 8 really just overruns his spot, right? He almost, he would have had less interaction with the returner if he kind of stopped, because he ends up on the right side where number 23, A23 was, whereas the ball is on his left side. But if we feel like 8's got to do something different because of 23's presence within that 1 yard buffer, then we could have a foul. Is that what you were looking for, Tuta?
I think so.
Okay.
You just totally amazed me with that answer, and now I'm totally overwhelmed with all of that information. But
I know.
I think that was good enough.
Hopefully that helps. That's I don't know. KCI can get difficult. Sometimes it's really, really easy, but there's times where you've got to process multiple elements. So it's a good question. I like it.
And then this is reviewable whether or not there's a coach's challenge. Like in this play, if they just unfortunately, and very easy to do, as we know, miss the guy being out of bounds and award the ball to the kicking team. Replay could certainly fix this in games with instant replay without a coach's challenge. We wanted to get Daniel's coaching voice on air for that.
That's why that was the entire reason this play was proposed.
That's right. So interesting. So this turns into a pile up, and there was some interesting mechanics by the officials. But let's actually talk about covering piles with loose balls. And if there's more questions about that last play, absolutely put it forward. We're not going to do pile-ups yet. We'll do pile-ups in a second. We're going to stick with punts. And we're going to talk multiple fouls on a punt. And as a crew here, and then in the chat and everything, let's just discuss, how we report. So we're going to see a couple different looks at this. You're going to see an obvious blindside block there at the receiving team's 45-yard line. That's the second foul called. The first foul called was on the gunner to the
right.
The receiving team's right. Yeah. And this two-tie, you can speak to this type of action, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because
tangled feet.
That's right. I had one of those before, and I was unsuccessful in my attempt to appropriately judge the action. If we have tangled feet and the player is in chase mode, much like pass interference, we need to deem that as an illegal block in the back, even if there is no hands or shoulders into the back or whatever area of the gunner. Tangled feet is an illegal block in the back if the player is in chase mode.
Okay, so then we have a couple fouls to process through. So we've talked about crew efficiency before. Dan's got a good replay question that I can speak to here in a second as we talk through this crew efficiency. So what's happening here? We've all been part of these. Couple different flags. I think there was 3 flags on the field on this play. 1 for the block in the back and 2 for the illegal blindside block. Okay, and now look what happens. This is just kind of interesting, and we often laugh at ourselves when we all do this, because we all do this. We're talking. There's 7 people involved. Who's the official not involved? That's
line judge. Boy, they kept the line judge out of there. Man,
yeah,
he must have been ostracized.
No, he's there. Headline judge is not there.
Oh, okay.
We've got all this pointing going on, and so it takes us a minute to get from the end of the play to the start of the announcement. We had to take our mask off and all that stuff. And then we have a great announcement. We should have had the audio. This is an excellent announcement. But it'd just be something like, Tuta, I know that you would probably look at this and just wonder, how could we maybe do this a little more efficient? Like, I would hope 30 seconds would be the max to get this processed. And so, guys, speak to maybe what are some, I guess, failure modes that we have experienced when these tend to take too long. Is it number of people? Is it who's talking? Is it how we're talking? Is it what we're saying? What are some tips that we can make sure we maybe either do or try to avoid to make this more efficient?
Well, I think one thing is, obviously I think we had multiple flags down on the blindside block. And so whenever you have multiple flags, those officials that are throwing those flags need to come together first, have that conversation to confirm they have the same action. They're calling the same foul on the same number. And at that point, only one person needs to go to the referee. So if I think we had 2 or 3 flags on the blindside block, that can eliminate 1 or 2 people from being in that. And, I think there's the saying of too many cooks in the kitchen. When you have that many people in a conversation, that's just going to unnecessarily delay it, in my opinion. And, referees, they always have pop-up windows going off, and the more people there, that's more pop-up windows that they have to worry about and get through. So I would encourage everybody on this session tonight that if you're ever involved in a multiple foul or multiple flag situation, get together, figure out what you got, then go to the referee, and not all of you bombard the referee all at the same time.
And I think also the referee needs to take control of a situation like this, because to be perfectly honest, we got 7 people in there and everybody's all excited about everything. So the first thing the referee needs to do is just tell everybody, all right, slow down. Okay, what do you have? what do you have? And then we can move on from there. Because right now, everybody's telling the referee what they have. You can tell like 5 people are saying what they have all at the same time. So that's really not productive in terms of being efficient at all. And really, we only have 2 fouls. So it shouldn't take that long to figure out 2 fouls. But it can take that long if we're all, and to be perfectly honest, everyone is doing what they think is the right thing to do to help move the situation along. But unfortunately, we're not aware that by us all trying to do the same thing at the same time, we're really just hurting the process instead of helping the process. So it's no fault against any of the officials in the league, but
one thing I know from you, Brandon, you and Tuta can comment on this, but I've always noticed that, Brad Van Vark, this has always stood out to me as something that he does. When there are officials having that conversation, and, the camera always pans to the referee, you can tell that he keeps his distance away from folks, from guys having that conversation. Is that something that you would advocate for as referees, to maybe, let them have their preliminary discussion, if you will, before getting involved with that conference? Is that something that you could control as a referee?
Well, I think it's situational. For the most part, it's always better to hear that conversation.
Okay.
It really helps us to paint the picture and get into what we're going to say, especially in a multiple foul situation like this. What we don't want to do is interject and say, well, are you sure he didn't are you sure it's not playing through the back instead of cut off? Something silly, what I mean?
Right.
Like, don't get some meaningless interjection in there to totally derail the conversation, which sometimes some of us like to do as well, because, it's just our own self-importance coming through, right? On showing how much we know sometimes.
Right.
Okay. So, I don't subscribe to the stay back and keep your distance. Well, I mean, we want to be socially distanced this year or whatever, but I don't subscribe to that just because, and maybe it's my own lack of ability to comprehend things that are complex, but I really like to hear what they're talking about so I can just be part of it, and
that makes sense.
What I'll always do is I'll try to arrange myself so that my back is to the camera. And then whenever we're done, and usually I'm not talking at all, usually I'm just listening to the guys who actually understand what happened talk. And I'll just say, okay, we're good. Once I spin around, that's everybody's cue that we're done. I mean, I'm spinning, I'm flipping the microphone on, the announcement's going over the airwaves, and boom, let's go.
Brandon, I definitely agree that you have an inability to comprehend complex things. I definitely agree with that.
I feel like you agree with more than that. Come on.
One thing, if we noticed though, if this was our crew and we were talking about how can we better manage this situation, one thing to me that I noticed, we had maybe 3 different officials pointing to the spot of the first flag. In my opinion, if you didn't have that flag down, we don't necessarily need your input on what's happening with that flag. Just report your information and then let the referee process what's going on. And then the referee, he'll say what's happening. We all already know. We know. We got 2 live ball fouls. We got 2 fouls during the return. We already know. We're going back to the one that is, most advantageous to the kicking team. We already know.
A lot of times that's where we tend to go wrong on pump plays, right? Is we'll just report illegal block in the back. Right. And then somebody will point there, like these guys are pointing up. And look, we all do this. And it just drives me crazy, which is why I wanted to talk about it. But we all do it. We all do it. I mean, we're sitting there point where it's like we're landing the planes. Like there's no planes coming into this stadium. There's likely very few planes that we need to land. And they're not going to trust where we're pointing to, by the way. So why do we do that? But what tends to go wrong is we just say illegal block in the back, and then we start pointing everywhere, and we forget to actually say, "Wow, the foul
was kick during the return."
During the return, and then we got to retrace our steps, and then we kind of lose our way. We got to get back down the right, rabbit hole, like you said earlier, or whatever you want to say, to get us down the right track. And so I agree. Just be complete in how we report, and all this takes care of itself from an efficiency standpoint. All right.
Let's get a pile up in here.
I thought Tuta was going to give us his announcement, but he's not in a very good mood tonight, so I don't know.
I'd like to hear that announcement, actually. Let's do that first.
During the return, personal foul, illegal block illegal blindside block, number whatever receiving team, that penalty is declined. Also during the return, illegal block in the back, number whatever receiving team, 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul, first down, San Diego State.
He's been practicing all day.
Yeah, he's been practicing.
That was amazing. There's no way that was improv.
Brandon, Daniel, I'm getting better, believe it or not.
I know.
I'm a real referee, man. I have like 5 games under my belt. I'm a veteran.
A professional.
All right. So the previous play, we saw the players get piled up. Now, I've never heard anybody talk about pile-ups at a clinic before. So when I saw a couple of these plays and we were talking about different things, let's just have fun with pile-ups because they are fun, right? They are fun. Okay, so here we go. Quarterback pass fumble. And there's some interesting things about this. There's some things that maybe are missing.
Synergy is a physical guy, touchy-feely guy there.
Yeah, that inside joke. But perfectly fine. Like not a problem at all.
Not at all.
So, okay, so we got a quarterback pass fumble, we got a pile up, and we know that it was a pass play, so that the deep guys are probably downfield. And so we don't really expect to see them. Line of scrimmage guys, I feel like they're missing on this play. I mean, where are they at? And it's not the most vicious, craziest pile in the world, but I do think we want to act with some urgency. The center judge here, this is just my preference. I would rather him or her, whoever it is, withhold this signal and just work the pile. We can make the signal later. Do you guys agree that for some reason we try to be like the first to signal everything as fast as humanly possible on these types of plays? Why do we do that?
Yeah, I was never taught that way. If you're the first guy on scene and you're digging, you relay information and let somebody else signal that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't disagree, but I think I understand the motivation. I think when you're in the pile, the crap out of it. When you're in the pile and you're digging, you want everyone else to stop doing what they are doing. Stop it.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to communicate so often, and we'll probably get to this, if I'm the guy there and I have possession, we're yelling the color, right? We're trying to communicate to everyone, and the players don't care what we are saying. But for whatever reason, our brain says, well, okay, I'm saying it. Maybe I can give a physical example or indication of what just happened, and maybe then they'll stop, which they won't. But I think maybe that's what happens for us from just kind of what our brain tells our body to do.
Yeah, and then to me, here's the difference. But this obviously is a different play. We've probably got more officials in the proximity. But, the back judge, he's in there. Look at this umpire come hustling in. Not the line of scrimmage, the deep guy, since this was a punt. We've got a little bit more presence on this pile. There's also more players, by the way. So I don't want to – I'm not getting on the crew before. I just know that as watching these two plays, I just see a little bit of a difference. The line judge does get in there. Center judge is kind of keeping the peripheral. And then the referee steps out and points, and the field judge points too, which – is, again, we just want to make sure we just don't have empty mechanics. So watch as this loops, and it's a good job, getting in. These things can get chippy, as we all know. The back judge just cracks me up. It's like we're trying to dig, and there's just a wall of humanity there, and the dude's tiny. 54 for the white team knows what the right call is. They always know. So 6 for the black team knows what the right call is. One thing I would say here is referee, I know we want to get out and show this signal and we want to be big and strong. We don't want to just turn our backs to the pile. Okay. So I think from this end zone view that comes back, a better route, perhaps, if I'm self-evaluating myself here if this was me, just back straight out, keep our eyes focused on players, and we can still point the same way we point, but without turning our backs to this whole pile. And then as the field judge, watch the field judge here kind of mirror the referee signal. It's just playing a little bit better if you're interested in how things look as people evaluate. It's just going to play a little bit better if you stay focused on players and not worry too much about pointing. And it's not that we're just arrogant referees. Well, maybe we are, but we all just need to work players more so than worry about giving signals, guys.
Well, something you didn't talk about. Oh, sorry, Corey. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tuta.
I was going to say something we didn't talk about was the clock. And for me, I love what the line judge did on this play because that's where I normally am. I'm not jumping in a pile because I don't want a player jumping up and busting me in my face with a helmet. I'm sorry. I just don't. But I'm going to stand back and I'm going to see when the clock gets killed and I'm going to make sure the clock is stopped. I'm going to see if anybody doesn't kill the clock. Then I'm probably going to index that time and think about later on as this action develops, man, should we maybe put some time back on this clock, those type of things. If you're not actively involved in digging or pulling players off, the first thing you need to do is watch that clock. If you're one of the perimeter or people around the pile.
That's a good point, Tuta. We don't need 8 guys digging. Maybe we need 2 if we're not exactly sure where the ball is and there's a lot of guys, but fight the temptation to be the 5th guy to the pile digging. There's things we need to officiate here. We know we don't want them pulling opponents off the pile. The clock is maybe one of the most significant ones, so I like it.
Yeah, I really liked how the line judge was kind of the only person on that, Overwatch, kind of checking things out. And I think we could have had probably one more doing that. But Dan, you bring up a great point. Like the first guy in there, he's digging for the ball, and the next 2 guys were trying to get people off, peeling them off by layers. And it seems like on this we had, maybe 1 or 2 too many people digging for the football. And but I think the line judge did a great job here, just recognizing, okay, I got a lot of my guys in there taking care of this. I'm going to sit back and make sure nothing happens on the outer rings.
Yeah, and I see the question. It's not that we need to wait for the referee, but the point is when there's players that are actively engaged with each other in these piles, we don't need to – we can point later. The possession is always going to be there. And even the referee is maybe a little quick. But, again, just step straight back instead of walking forward and turning our backs on players. The general rule of thumb in these situations is we just don't want to turn our backs on players for a very empty mechanic. Pointing possession is an extremely empty mechanic if you really, really think about it. It can always be done 2 or 3 seconds later.
But especially from a back judge perspective at the end of the punt, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
I would just add that.
Speaking of an empty statement. All right, anything else on working piles? Great point about the clock and then the diggers.
Love the line judge. That's 100%.
I know.
I love that.
It's great. And they're listening. Look, he's taking control.
Hey, you over there, 54. Cut it out.
And that's another great point, Dan, that, if we point so fast while we're still trying to dig, we might get disoriented. Like in the first play, the center judge is on the ground. I mean, you might just get disoriented and unfortunately point the wrong way. And then now we got to correct that. All right, let's go to the boy. We've got a line to gain. We've got a goal line. We've got spots. We've got all kinds of different things. And so I know we talk a lot about these pylon plays, but I don't know if we've too much addressed this. So let's put up a poll, and then I'll get the heck out of the way so that these guys who actually know how to work this. And really what we want to get into is the preparation on nailing these plays. So let's ask, look at the poll. Who has this spot? All right. Who has it? Is it the line of scrimmage official? Is it the deep wing official? And I'm not saying what you see on video. Who should have it is basically what we're saying. Is it the replay official? Sometimes. Or does it depend? Okay. So let us know what you think. I mean, who, based on what you see here on this video, on this play, who should have this spot? These are easy, right?
100% easy.
Yeah. So you'll see.
As a back judge, these are incredibly easy.
This is when the back judge is out there saying, "I'm pulling for you guys."
When we're on the in line, let me clarify. When we're on the in line.
So that lit up 10-yard marker thing there, I believe, is the line to gain. So the line to gain is at the 1, and obviously the goal line is the goal line. See that? Does that say 10 yards? What does that say? I guess it was 1st and 10 from the 11-yard line going in. I don't know why it says. I guess it's 10 yards to go. Is that what that sign means?
Man.
Yeah, that changes. So if it's 36,
like
it'll be 6 on there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's next level.
That is innovation on a football field.
You ever seen one of those?
I don't think so. I don't pay attention to those chains.
I think Kansas State has those, don't they?
State does have those, correct?
All right, so let's see what we're saying here, and then you guys go. And again, we'll get into preparing to get these right. So 66% say it's the deep wing. 19% say it depends. Really?
What does that mean?
You guys went with that? That's interesting. After all this time, we had 19% of us. And then 14% say the line of scrimmage official. And so I would say find the correct answer. I would pass it on to, let's start with you, Corey.
All right. So, these things, we started talking about this in the spring with the virus clinic. We've talked about it throughout these study groups. I mean, this type of stuff starts with your preparation days, weeks, months beforehand. I mean, the day of the game, talking with your line of scrimmage mate and knowing what you all are going to do in these types of situations. And, you start there, you start in the summer, you start in the spring, you start, the week of the game, and talking to your buddy up there saying, all right, when do you want to take, when are you going to take the spot tell? Some take it to the 2. The past 2 headline judges I've worked with, they take it up to the 1. But that's fine. I let them dictate that because they are used to taking spots 99% of the plays. I'm okay with that. As long as we're all on the same page and know what we're doing, that's fine. And so, you take that to game day. You continue that communication when you get into these situations, when you start, especially here. I mean, a 1st and 10 at the plus 11 is probably the worst starting line ever in football because it's right in that gray area for everybody. So I know our headline judge last year, he tried really hard to always get that ball at the 10, but sometimes you can't do that. So, but 1st and 10 at the 11 is going to be the biggest challenge because, okay, what are we doing here? And, with how we do it, on my crew and how I do it personally is, my headlines will take it inside the 2, and I'll take it, the 1 and in. And so, but you have to have that communication beforehand. And so that's where we start from there. So I know, Tuta, you do things a little wacky sometimes. So I don't know if you've done anything differently in your days as a deep wing.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, love what you said. This does not start on this play. If you're a deep wing, and you haven't talked to your line of scrimmage official until this exact moment about how we're going to handle these spots, then you're in trouble. If you're a line of scrimmage official and you haven't talked to your deep wing yet about how we're going to handle spots, you're in trouble. And on a play like this, we already have a basic understanding from my perspective. Well, yeah, we stop at the 2. That's fine as a wing official. But guess what? Every single time we have a snap and the line to gain is somewhere near the 2 or the 1 yard line, you and your line of scrimmage official probably should have a conversation. And I mean, during the game, and during the dead ball spot time, right before the play, the ball is snapped. And what I would do every time, the line to gain is at the 2. You want it or you want me to get it? Line to gain is at the 1. You want it or you want me to get it? Every single time I'm going to ask them. I know they probably got aggravated with me sometime, but I would ask them every single time just to make sure. And then once the play started, I know Corey doesn't like this too much. What I also did is I would ask them beforehand, who do you want to quarterback this? Because what I like to do is I like to know if I'm getting it or if they're getting. So I want to either say you, me, or have them say you, me. And if that doesn't work for you, fine, don't do it. But that's what I like to do because I want to know, am I getting the spot or am I not getting the spot? Because the last thing we want to do is either have two different spots, one at the 2, one at the 1, or have us bumping into each other and both getting the spot at the 1 or both getting the spot at the 2. So we want to have communication before we come into the game, before the ball is snapped, And then if you're a person that likes it during the play, or as the play is ending, or I should say not during the play, but as the play is ending, then do that as well.
All right. So this is all great. This is great. Great preparation. So wait a second. This deep wing has the spot at the 1, and it's not. I mean, it's clearly not. This is classic double action.
Right.
I mean, it's a tough spot, no question. But so if you're telling me as a line of scrimmage guy that I have it to the 2 and you have it at the 1, but if you think it's at the 1 and I'm used to these, I can put it at the 2. And oh, by the way, if this is 4th down, we can't just give him the 1. I mean, that's wholly incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it will impact in the game. I mean, talk to me because, man, if I think it's at the 1 as a deep official, but the line of scrimmage guy thinks it's at the 2, this whole preparation gets thrown into a can of what.
This is where, I mean, I don't know these two officials from anybody, but I can tell just by watching this that the way that they are running this is that the deep wing is going to have it 2 and in. And the reason I can tell that is because that line judge, the head line judge, he throttles down and he knows, okay, that's going to be at the 2 or in, or, somewhere near that. And so, that's different. Every side judge or every deep wing and line of scrimmage, they have a different routine. They really do. There's some, like last year, our line judge wanted, he would take it to the 2, but our head line judge would take it to the 1. And why we don't have that coordinated, I don't know. But that's just how it is. But these guys have done that. And so, we can talk about the double action. I don't think it's, that challenging of a double action. I've definitely seen more challenging. But you bring up a great point that when it's in that gray zone, kind of in the no man's land, who's going to overrule? And that's where you talk about, I mean, we can't put everything into a box. And so for me to say to Tuta, I don't like the you or the me, there may be times where that's appropriate. And when it is in that gray area, then absolutely, that could be one where you quarterback and say, hey, you got this, or I got it, whatever you want to do.
So would it be appropriate? I mean, if the headline judge is throttling down here like he is, he makes the judgment. Would it be appropriate if he nails it to say, put it at the 2, put it at the 2? And are you going to be able to hear that, I guess, is also a question.
Well, it's no different than on a long pass that's down right away that, we will communicate via our headsets where we like the spot to be. And I think the same thing can work in reverse on this to say, I think the 2's better, or the field judge, we don't see him in this view, but he's responsible. He's equally responsible for this spot. I mean, he can come in and say, hey, I had his knee down, double action, let's put it at the 2, and you can go from there. So I don't know how this play ended up, if it was reviewed or if they got it right, on the field before going to replay.
No, I mean, the way it was a first down play, and I know everything's critical in the red zone. They just kind of let this go. But yeah, I would really rather us nail this on the field. Obviously, I know that's how you feel too.
Right, 100%. That's how I feel. And there's a comment comes up that, the side judge doesn't have view of the knee. Okay, maybe so. I could grant you that, but you could also index that spot and start to know, just watching enough double actions, you can see how the body reacts after it's hit the ground versus rolling over on a player, which would be the only reason that would keep this guy up in this type of posture. So to see how he bounces kind of forward, I think would help you get that correct.
You guys are masters at this, but I mean, you watch a lot of these types of plays. 99.9% of them are double action with that knee down. It's very rare that they're able to keep that knee up.
Yeah, I was talking to an official today about double action, and because he felt that they put the spot a yard too forward, and I told him that something that somebody taught me a long time ago is when you see these double actions, whatever spot you think it's at, go back a half or even a full yard, and it inevitably, when you see it on video, that's where the ball should be. And it's just, I don't know if it's the how long it takes for our synapses to fire to see that detail in that, but that's always served me well.
And here we go, throwing all these terms around. Tuta, what do we mean by double action?
Double action means, I guess, if you perceive a player to be in the end zone, like on this play, if we perceive him to be in the end zone, and prior to him getting into the end zone, a body part was down prior to his subsequent action, that would be the double action. The initial action would be the body part down. The secondary action or the double action would be the forward most pointing the ball after he finishes doing the second part of his act. Most of the time we see it where the knee hits the ground and then the player lurches forward. In this one, to me, this is a really tough play because the rollover, man, you have no idea. I honestly wouldn't have any idea either if his knee hit the ground. Most of the time we see double action with the knees go down and then a player go forward.
And then he falls forward. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But even this, like pattern recognition, like we talk about, this has the double action pattern. And I think we're, based on studying these plays, we're going to be right more often than not. Ruling this is double action.
There's one other aspect I want to talk about this play, and we didn't really talk about this in production meeting, but this is a play that will exemplify crew trust, because you have to be on the same page with everybody, because not only does the deep wing and the line of scrimmage guys have to know how they're working that, but there's that block that is happening right around the 2 or 3 yard line that would be the side judges or the field judges. That's where their focus would be until that ball carrier gets into that area where now we are going to be taking over. Are you going to see this block? Same conversation with the head line judge, because I don't think that our line of scrimmage mates know to then go outward, because they're just not used to that. They're going to be more focused on that runner. And so having that conversation with your back judge and your line of scrimmage mate on those type of blocks, because say that guy, something happens, he gets drugged down, whatever it could be, having that conversation to know those guys and trusting those guys are going to be looking there, which will free you to look at the ball carrier as a deep wing.
And then Jeremy asked a nice question about, wouldn't we be better off having all 4 wing officials being on the same page to avoid having like a line judge and a side judge mirroring spots?
I
think we agree with that.
Yeah,
we've all seen it happen. I don't think it's the end of the world, personally, as long as we get the spot right.
Right.
But I think we would be better off kind of being the same on both sides.
Yeah,
all right. Oh, go ahead.
No, that's it. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay, so we're going to go to – we got a similar type of play. We don't see all the mechanics too, Todd, but you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, we all like to sit on here like we're high and mighty and we can go these plays and they're easy and everything. Let's be for real. These plays are super tough. I worked this play. This is a play from last year, and I worked this play. I was on the goal line, and this is where we had an issue with communication. So these are 2 plays in a row. The first play ends at where we think maybe at the 1 yard line. So the field judge marked the ball at the 1, but there was a clear and obvious double action, and the side judge was not very strong coming onto the field to mark the spot because he was busy communicating with his wing official, and there was miscommunication on who would get the spot because the knee was down at the 3 yard line, but the player was leaning forward maybe to the 2 yard line, and we weren't on the same page in terms of marking the forward progress spot. So what ended up happening is from the booth, the offensive team coach saw the field judge at the 1 yard line. So they called a quick quarterback sneak. Well, by the time we ended up actually spotting the ball, we spotted the ball, I believe, at the 2.5 or the 2. I can't remember. And the offensive team was extremely upset because they never would have called a quarterback sneak if they knew that the spot was actually on 2 and not on the 1. But you can see that the player's knee went down. This was what we call the classic double action. And so I don't even have a real good answer on how do we better handle this. But obviously, we just need to have better communication. And this is one that we just need to study these type of plays with our partner officials and with our crewmates and say, man, how are we going to handle this to make sure that we get it right? Because this one was not handled properly. And I would say it definitely starts with me on the play because I wasn't strong enough in coming onto the field, signaling where the actual spot was, indicating that we weren't at the 1 yard line, we were at the 2 yard line.
You know what I want to offer real quick, and then I'll shut up.
Sure.
I don't want to hear anybody say, well, the offense, they made their own bed by calling a horrible quarterback sneak. No,
Yeah, no.
I mean, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to work this game and be administratively correct as much as we can. We put the offense in this situation.
We did. And the key point is, and I think if you look at the clock, it's late in the half, time is low. So what are we all doing? We're all getting all harried and nervous and excited. And we're like, oh, we got to hurry up. We got to hurry up. We got to hurry up. Well, in this play, if I would have just slowed down and came on with a really strong whistle and a really strong spot, we would have been fine. But I think just thinking, oh my God, I got to hurry up and get off the field. I got to get to my position. The next play is going to start. I got to get to this back pylon. Thinking about all of those type of things, we don't really just think about our actual process and slow down, process, make sure we get the spot right, and then we can move on to the next play.
Yeah. Anything different on that one, Corey?
No, 100%. I like exactly what Tuta says there. I mean, we see that clock going down because as side judges, we're cognizant of that clock, and I think it subconsciously says, okay, late in the half, we got to hurry, and we have to just maintain the same pace that we would if it was 3 minutes ago in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, we want to meet them where they are, but not at the costing them a yard when they're going to call a quarterback sneak, right? So then we're just administratively incorrect. And after this, there's just almost nothing we can do.
There is, right, because they hurried up and they ran in that play, and now it's done. So, and this, I went to so that was the visiting team on offense. Yeah. And I had the pleasure of being on the visiting team sideline to start the second half. And of course, what is the first thing the coach wants to ask me about the last play of the half? Man, what happened? And I had to explain to him, Coach, I didn't do a good job of coming onto the field strong enough to mark the spot. I had double action because the first thing he said is the field judge marked it at the 1. Why did we have the ball at the 1? Well, it was double action, So this is a play where I had it right, but I was totally wrong. I had the spot right, but my process was so wrong that I really screwed a team out of an opportunity for points.
And so if you think about it, that's never going to come up in the grades. So to go full circle, it's never sure the spot might come up in the grade, whatever. Well, actually, the grades will probably tell us we correctly got the spot, for crying out loud. You know what I mean?
Right.
And ignore all this other stuff that we're talking about. And that's why this self-evaluation and the thing you were talking about to lead this thing off is so damn important in what we do, because, you could have just said, well, it was really the field judge's fault for blowing the spot, and I'm out of it. I was correct. Well,
right.
You weren't.
Right.
Because we weren't, and we cost this team a really solid chance to run a more strategic play than a quarterback sneak from the 2, which has never happened in the history of college football.
Oh, 4th and goal, quarterback sneak from the 2-yard line.
Exactly. So I think it's just a really good way to kind of go full circle on what you stated at the start and say, look, let's self-evaluate, let's be honest, get with a buddy or whatever. Maybe the buddy is the field judge or the head line judge in this case. And say, I tell you what, we get this play next week, we got to nail this thing a lot better than we did this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then do that 12 times over, because there's always that many opportunities to improve from one week to the next.
Right.
If you're me. Well, that was fast, but not really. We still went an hour 20. I mean, we're trying not to make these 2-hour sessions, but we just have, we can't help ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, but think about it. Seriously, bro. I'm still thinking about this play because this play still haunts me, believe it or not. Like, man, we got to have these conversations with our wing officials to make sure that we are on the same page. And we have to do better as deep wings in learning how to actually mark spots. Because, honestly, I was probably thinking this was closer to the 2.5-yard line. And that's probably why I didn't get it, and I was, but we just have to look at a play like this and just be better and talk to our crewmates about how to be better, because this is a crazy play that we don't get practice on these things.
That's a great point too, Todd. As deep wings, you can work a season worth of scrimmages and not see these, and so the only way we can index these in our heads, in our minds, is to watch video of these. So whenever you hear somebody having a double action play, and you're a deep wing, get a hold of that video and watch it.
Yeah, and you guys really broke it down well on how you prepare with your partner officials here, whether across the field or more on the same sideline. But is it also fair to say like 80-20 rule? So what you're preparing for is, the 80% of what's going to happen. And that, and you can really kind of prepare well for that. But there's another 20%, or maybe it's more like 95-5. When that other 5% happens, let's let talent take over and just get it right. I mean, it's not that we're out there, it's wild, wild west. We're just, we're just throwing mechanics book away. But when the 5% happens, when maybe we're off kilter for whatever reason, let's somehow practice and be self-aware on that, and then just go get it right, and communicate and just be better, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go.
Pretty good stuff, guys.
And Brandon, to your point, that play was not even mentioned in our quote unquote grades. So that play never even came up. But it's a play that was a total abject failure, certainly starting with me, and one that I learned a lot about and still haunts me to this day. Thankfully, I'm just a dope referee now. I just stand there and just turn on the microphone and just say stuff.
Yeah.
So if we focus solely on grades from our introduction, we run the risk of identifying ourselves as officials as a function of those grades, and also as a function of our conclusion. If we focus only on grades, we miss, holy cow, how many opportunities to improve what we do on the field by missing all of those plays where we could have done something better because all we were watching are those plays that are graded. Is that a good summary?
Yes, sir.
I believe that would be right along the way of how we try to approach this craft and what we're trying to communicate anyway.
Yeah.
Well said. All right. Well, it wasn't 2 hours, but it was close. Thanks, guys. Great work.
Good one.
Yep.
All right.
All right, guys.
We will keep doing this again weekly, man. We love this stuff. Can't get enough of it. Send us plays. Send us plays. We want to see you guys in action. But we got plenty of plays to pull from, certainly in our library too. So you got anything else, Corey?
No, I'm happy to be back after my 1 week hiatus, and it's good to be talking football. This is great stuff. I mean, where else do you ever break down working a pile?
Hey, Corey, were you suspended last week? You said 1 week hiatus. Were you suspended? Did you do something I didn't know about?
No, I did
HR
not.
department.
I have, HR department did get the paperwork through. So, I was in a contract negotiation.
Oh man. I need your agent then, because I've been complaining myself.
That's weird.
All right. We should have ended with Daniel's words instead of those words. Thanks,
Yeah, I think so.
everybody. Have a great night.
See you later.
Take care.